Hello friends, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And this morning I'd like to do some introductory musings upon FI and TI and the difference between the two, and basically think through how I'm going to approach this issue in the different ways, different angles by which one might approach it. So, foremost, let's address the fact that it's going to depend where it is in the slot, in which slot it's in, right? So, FI Dom and TI Dom are going to be the are going to manifest very differently than if it's in a different slot. In the same way that I have FE in the third slot, that manifests very differently than Abraham, who has it in the dominant slot, because it's really a matter of where it is relative to other stuff, more so than what it is in and of itself. Because where it is relative to other stuff is going to determine what it's doing in your personality as a whole. So, if we start with the FI DOMs and the TI DOMs, and we're looking at, well, a couple of examples would be, there'd be 4 total that we're talking about. One is INTP. One is INTJ, I think. One is ISFP. And ISFJ, I think that's what it is. But I know it's ISFP, and I know it's INTP, or TI and FI, dominance. So there's one angle, is to sort of explore the ways in which they manifest differently in different spots in the stack. I think if you're going to get a good understanding of the function, what it is in terms of its nature, then you should understand how it expresses across its different manifestations, including as shadow functions, ideally, because I have a very adversarial relationship with FI, because it's in my 7th slot as far as the shadow function goes. And that's another thing I want to talk about, is what do shadow functions mean? What are they? And why do we relate to them differently if we don't have any of them? Why do we relate to them differently in the order in which we don't have them? There's an order in which we don't have them. That seems odd. So I want to talk about that in a separate video. Another way to approach FITI is to just talk about them in terms of time orientation, or time relationship to time. Because I think one of the core differences between the two things is FI is a non-time expansive. It's a time reductive quality, which is it would like time not to exist. Everything it needs to know it has right in front of it right now. And if you're FI Dom, you are troubled by far-looking questions and far-looking considerations, such as, well, what would you like to be doing in 10 years? Stuff like that. That's going to bother you a bit. You don't want to be reflecting upon that. For TI, on the other hand, you don't want to be stuck in the moment, because the moment is not what calls for your skill. Your skill is called for every other time but that moment. That's the weird thing about it, right? SE is what you want in the moment where you're actually taking the action, you're proceeding. I call SE the proceed function, because, all right, we've come up with a plan, decided everything, now let's do it. And to the extent that you're an SE person, I believe that you are going to execute protocols well if you are doing SE well, which is you are going to be able to do the hoop jumping just fine, provided you're not type 7. I mean, if you're spoiled, and type spoiled, we will be called type 7 now, instead of be called. If you're type spoiled like me, then you're going to have problems no matter what. You've been spoiled, and that's fine. In a certain way, it's kind of better to be spoiled than the alternative, so whatever. But the point is, if you're SE, you're going to have no problem with proceeding through a set of protocols. And so as a consequence, SE is going to work just fine with either TI or FI. You're either proceeding through protocols that you've thought through, or you're proceeding through protocols regarding your feelings, regarding values, stuff like that. You're experiencing the moment as well with SE. And so it does, SE works on both time scales depending on how high it is in the stack. If it's really high up in the stack, then it works on any time scale. Now this Russian dude, Basler, says there's 4 time dimensions in which every cognitive function can function, and that if it's in the top senior dominant slot, you can function in all 4 time dimensions. I don't agree with that. I think it depends on the function. I don't think FI can function in any time dimension except for one, which is, well, 2. I mean, okay, perhaps it can, but it does so in a totally different way, which is to say, FI is, it determines values through feelings, which is a discovered form of truth. It's not a created form of truth. And when it is, then it's wrong, you know. It's consistent with NI and it's inconsistent with NE. So this is why ENFPs have a much harder time in life than ENTPs. Is because they're conflicted, because they've got functions that don't match up with each other. So I think another factor in evaluating the FITI thing is which other functions are in the stack, because the ENTP, there's 4, according to my model, this is, right, it's not according to anybody else really, but according to my model, you've got 4 types who are unconflicted time, including ENTP. You've got 4 types who are unconflicted space, including INFJ. No, including, who's unconflicted space? Well, I mean, it would be the opposite for the ENTP, which is you'd have TE, you'd have NI, you'd have FI, and you'd have SE. That's unconflicted space. And there are 4 types with those functions. And then you've got your conflicted types, but half the conflicted types are conflicted in ways that lead to more order, and half of them are conflicted in ways that lead to more chaos. The ones who are conflicted in the ways that lead to more chaos, right, there are 2 of them. Those 2 types are, I think, yeah, there are 2, right? 4. No, maybe there are 4. I mean, I think what it is I have to look at the chart again. But it may be that there are 2 who are conflicted towards order, 4 are neutral, and 2 are conflicted towards time. And so, in that case, you don't want to be ISFP, really. Although, if you can get a hang of it, if you can get a handle on those conflicting vectors, reconcile the contradictions implicit in them, and figure out a way to integrate them all into some identity that works, then you could potentially be more powerful than anybody, is my thinking, because you've got all these different, you've got a weird combination that doesn't normally work at all. And that's always powerful because you are in contrast to everyone's expected argumentation vectors, which sort of segues back into the fact that everything is adversarial. Okay, I'm going to stop this video now. I can probably start another one right away that sort of continues this topic. Thanks for watching Talking with People.